Accessing Secure Channel. The Agent Files, where aspiring agents rise and masters flourish. Powered by Agent Builder Coaching. Mission initiated. File loading.
Hi there, this is Peter Fan for Agent Builder Coaching and the Agent Files. And this week's episode is in the area for rookie realtors, those that are 24 months or less in the business. But because this is probably one of the key topics in all of real estate, I would encourage anybody from any experience levels, from starting realtors to rookies to very experienced, but also those that are struggling. Actually, in fact, the people that are struggling most are oftentimes struggling with this particular section of the real estate business most. Okay, so this is really for everybody that is in real estate or wants to be succeeding in real estate. And it's really one of the strangest secrets that I can't figure out for the life of me, right? Most realtors actually know what to do and how to do things, but for some reason are not consistent with what they do and how they do things. So the word consistency comes up a lot. So if you want something, one slogan to put in your brain is be consistent. Whatever it is that you do in the business, be consistent. Consistently be in touch with people, staying in touch with people, and working with people. And your message needs to be somewhat consistent as well, in order so that people actually understand what you stand for and what you do, how you do things. Okay, but that's a bit of a side note. I wanted to begin this episode with a bit of a short story, and it's actually one of my own experiences in real estate. Very early on, when I was licensed, first got licensed in early '87, I guess, and I really didn't know what I didn't know. Right, I truly did not understand all of the mechanics of real estate. I kind of knew the paperwork because obviously we've done the pre-licensing course and the applied practice course and all of the good stuff, and had some training inside the brokerage at the time. And so I kind of had an inkling and an understanding. And of course, I understood sales from a retail perspective. What I completely underestimated and calculated was the incubation time in real estate. And why is this relevant? Well, so many people that have sales experience are used to a time frame of maybe a week, maybe 10 days, maybe even 2 weeks to a month, right? Before somebody goes from semi-interested to interested to actually buying. In real estate, that's not at all the case. And it's probably one of the most underestimated, undercalculated realities. So we have this kind of instantaneous satisfaction response to working with potential buyers and sellers. So if they're not interested today, we toss them out. We have a tendency to ignore them, forget them, and not stay in touch with people. It doesn't mean that those people are not going to buy or not going to sell their property. It just means not now, which puts the onus squarely back onto you to stay in touch with people, add value to their life, and create clarity, and sometimes, guide them through a whole bunch of steps and processes that may not necessarily immediately or completely have anything to do with buying or selling. It's just, you're building that trust relationship, and you're doing it as a giver's gain approach to building that relationship. That is even more important with the key topic of today. And so when I started in real estate, I was brand spanking new to the area, to the province, to the country. I had been in Canada for about a year and had really not focused on, building a network of people. I knew about 10 people directly, and they were all family members, whether it was at the time, a couple of sisters. My mom lived here, and then a whole bunch of nephews and cousins and nieces. That's who I knew. And that was about it. Right? I had not really a job. I was doing some consulting work, but it really didn't amount to having a lot of interaction with a lot of people. And the people that I did know were themselves working in some capacity inside of buying or selling real estate for their own account as either investors or alumni for one of these quick rich schemes that I got myself involved in. So on a local residential real estate level, I didn't know anybody for all intents and purposes. So I started to realize very quickly that if I didn't build a sphere of influence, a group of people that I could connect with in some way, shape, or form, I was not going to survive. Right? I have to have customers. Now, I was fortunate enough that I was with a brokerage where I was able to use their kiosk displays in shopping centers where they had picture boards and what have you. Keep in mind, this is 1987. There is no such thing as the internet. Well, technically it's there, but nobody was using it for what we're using it for now. And none of the internet at that point in time had graphics or pictures or images or videos. That was just, not even a concept at the time. So picture boards were actually a very good way of displaying properties in a central place, and people could stop by and we could chit-chat about good, bad, or indifferent about properties, which made kind of selling real estate almost like retail sales, which for me was very, very fortunate, of course. Now, during that period of time, I made sure that I took on pretty much every kiosk shift, as we call them, that I could possibly get. And a lot of realtors at the time were ambivalent about doing these shifts because they didn't see it as instant response. And I loved it because it gave me an opportunity to practice, to learn, to understand, and to meet people, right? And so very quickly, I was starting to get 5, 10, 15, 20 people per shift that I was able to add to my list and then follow up with them in some way, shape, or form. And that very initial boost of people that I was able to add to my sphere of influence, and nobody had actually told me what to do or what to say at the time, and I hadn't actually followed any programs around how to build a sphere of influence program at that point. But I knew intuitively that if I didn't follow up with people, they would forget about me and I would forget about them. I mean, right? So I bought myself a little, at the office supply store, I bought myself a little box with index cards with the 12 months out of the year, and index cards with 1 through 31, right? And everybody that I talked to, I created an index card and wrote their name, their address, if I had it, their contact information. In those days, you didn't have 20 different contact methods. You had a phone number, you had a civic address. That was it. There was no such thing as email address. Nobody had email. So it was simple, right? And so what I would do was, I would meet them at the kiosk. I would make some notes either while I was talking to them or after they had left, and then quickly wrote a little follow-up thing and then collected some information that I could put in an envelope and either drop off or mail. Now, at the time, I was in a place called Maple Ridge, which is about an hour or so east of Vancouver. And in many instances, it was good for me to drive around and hand deliver stuff because, again, I was new to the area. It gave me an opportunity to learn the topography, the way the streets flowed, and where neighborhoods were, and what these neighborhoods were all about. Right? Again, I was just very organically learning the ropes, one one new contact at a time. And that then gave me an opportunity to follow up and follow up and follow up. Now, in one of those instances, I got to meet a fellow that was also new to the area, and but had been building buildings in Alberta and in the interior, and he was new to the area, and he said, I'd like to build a kind of a smallish apartment building, upwards to about 40 units or so. So I need something that is half an acre or bigger, with either a house on it or not. It doesn't really matter because it's going to go. And that is already zoned or is slated that we can zone it. So that was one of my first, real clients. So I just drove all over God's country with zoning maps in my car, between Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge. And in about a week, 10 days or so, I found a site that was actually listed as a residential lot. And at the time, it was not advertised as a development site, but it clearly had the zoning that was right for it. And the lot was just big enough. And the house was okay, but it was old and needed some updating. And it happened to be the right location. Well, lo and behold, I presented it to this potential buyer, and he was very impressed that I had turned around and found something so quickly. And he hadn't noticed this particular one, although he had been shopping around, so to speak. But again, if something is marketed as one thing and it really represents something else, then okay. We found something that worked. We did make the offer. We did get it under contract. At the time, we didn't even worry about, if he could develop it into anything. He just wanted to tie up the property for sure, so that he had it, regardless of what he was going to do with it. He knew he was going to be able to do something, and the price was good enough so that he could afford to just let it sit there for a while. Anyway, so he bought it, and about a year and a half, 2 years later, we started to pre-sell the 24 units that were there. Right. So it was a great opportunity for me to be able to get into the marketplace. So again, that was just finding connections with people very quickly. And I was fortunate enough to find one person that was actually ready, willing, and able to buy. Now, I'll tell you another story that kind of says the opposite. Right? I was working with a Lions Club in the area as a volunteer, and I was doing Friday nights bingo sessions, and met lots and lots of people, because again, I wanted to meet lots of people, and it gave me an opportunity to have a little bit of profile, a little bit of that was away from real estate, but it just still recognizable, and did some good deeds, of course, and we, raised lots of funds for the community and what have you. And so people saw me, and in the third year, about the third year, I'd never actually communicated with this person, but this person had seen me in the bingo hall for 3 years, and then eventually, while walking through the bingo hall, tapping on the shoulder, and he said, "Would you mind coming over in the next week or so, because we're getting ready to downsize, and I see you always working here so hard, and so you're the right person for us to list our house with." Right? So, although you technically can't call it a sphere of influence, but it was very much a sphere of influence, even though it was unbeknownst to me. I just put myself in the place and in the opportunity where I could meet people and they could get to know me. And yes, I did wear, career apparel to some degree that made it sure that they realized that I was in real estate. Now, as it so happened, that bingo hall was managed by my sister, and so indirectly, this person obviously had found out who I was and what I was, and what have you. So that helped. But a little side story on that: the actual owners of the bingo hall were introduced to me by also my sister, and they became clients as well. So you never know where prospects and leads come from. So your sphere of influence, and that's what this whole episode is all about, is key. You never know how important they are going to be if you don't get in touch and stay in touch with them. And that doesn't mean that you need to hammer them on lead generation. There's a huge difference between lead generation and staying in touch with your sphere of influence. Right? It's not always about the business at that point in time. There's much more about how you can add value to what it is that you're going to do. So let's dive in. And it seems like I've talked a lot about something without really covering the topic, but you now have a better understanding as to why it is so important. So your job, with a sphere of influence is to identify who they are first and foremost. Right? A lot of people say, well, I don't know anybody. Well, hang on. Turn that around. Who knows you? Right? You may be unaware how many people actually know you from somewhere. So think about where you work, where you play, where you have your hobbies, where you do your sports, your cultural interaction, the artistic involvement, deal with the kids, with the community, with nature, with whatever, recreation, investments, interactions with professionals, other businesses. Who do you know and who knows you or ought to know you? They become part of your sphere of influence. And then, obviously, the people in your sphere of influence can also include those that are on your social media and your friends online and what have you. Although it is not quite at the same level or the same value. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having a good number of people in your sphere of influence or in your friends online. But there's definitely business opportunities there. But you have to be understanding that relationship is never quite at the same intensity, at the same level of, the neighbor across the fence that you have, direct face-to-face interactions with, or, the PTA that you volunteer at the schools, or the service club that you're part of. They're definitely also valuable relationships, but they're not at the same level. So it does require a slightly different approach. Not to be misunderstood that they are absolutely need to be connected with, but it's not quite at the same level, I would say. Okay. So when you create the list, obviously you'll want names, numbers, contact information, and what have you. And, you don't want to segment them properly as to how do you know them, where do you know them from, and what have you, and then launch your first outreach. And very often, this is not about cold calling. This is not about pressure. This is not about anything but just saying, hey, how you doing? And do what we call FRD, family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, right? Reconnect on the level that you know the person, literally. If you knew them from a previous career, then talk about the previous career, right? Well, I just transitioned from this to that, and now I'm real estate. But how are you doing? What's happening in your life? What are your dreams? Have you had any time with the family, or what have you, right? And at some point in time, ask for permission to stay in touch, right? And if you can do that, then actually within a relatively short period of time, you're going to build a relatively solid, trusting relationship because you're not hammering them about business, 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 business. But you are adding value, right? You have a newsletter with a little bit of market update, but also some fun stuff. And you maybe have some market updates, or you do something about the community as to what is going on in development or what is going on in the community as far as festivities or cultural activities or what have you. But you build yourself a schedule of getting in touch and staying in touch. Okay? That trusting relationship that you have added value, not with a first and foremost priority of getting business from them, although you're not going to deny it, but it's not about that per se. It comes from it. Again, keep in mind, this is different from lead generation. Leads will come from this, but more because there is that know, like, and trust already. Okay. And that's why they will refer you sooner. Your sphere of influence is really your core connection. Right? Anybody that you have a relationship with now or in the future, they all become part of your sphere of influence. Right? So pick one. You have a favorite car mechanic. Okay. You send them business, your business or somebody else's business, and you're going to add them to your sphere of influence. So you're going to, at some point in time, relate and connect back with them about what is going on in the real estate business, yada, yada, yada. And hopefully over time, if and when real estate comes up in their life, they remember that, oh yeah, not only were you a good guy and they're a client, I can now reciprocate a little bit by doing my business with them, right? Now, does it always work? No, but it works a lot. And it's relatively low cost, relatively low intensity. There's no pressure. And it does, therefore, on a per cost base and per contact base, offer a very high return on investment. Very high. Okay. And, I coach a number of real estate agents at this point in time, and certainly talk about that as well. But one of the most common things that we hear from people that have kind of separated lead generation and sphere of influence marketing, the difference in how you connect with people and what goes on in those conversations is hugely different, right? There's absolutely, when you get a phone call from somebody out of your sphere of influence and saying, we need to talk about something, you don't need to convert them. They're already converted. You don't need to sell them. They're already sold, right? So now you're really a consultant. You're really a guide. You're their trusted advisor. You're the person of preference, which is an amazingly powerful role and position to earn in that relationship. So that's why these conversions are so much higher, right? So one of the things that I hear very often, unfortunately, is the fear-based rookie approach. Oh, I'm going to get in touch with them when I know more about real estate. No, because it's not about real estate. It's about the relationship. Right? Oh, I don't want to bother them. Or, well, but what are they going to say? Well, you're a rookie. What do you know? Don't be so afraid of it because it's not about real estate. It is about the relationship. And it truly is about the relationship. See, if you're thinking that you're lead generation when you're talking with your sphere of influence, your approach is that of being a salesperson. And that's not the point. It's not. The sales will come, but it's not the primary objective. Okay. Think about it. Your four main sources of sphere of influence categories are your family, your friends, your acquaintances, and community contacts. Now, are you going to pressure your family to buy and sell real estate for you, even if you full well know that they don't have a need to buy or sell? No, of course not. So you're going to have normal communication with them, normal relation, but you're going to make sure that you get in touch and stay in touch with them. Same with your friends, same with your acquaintances, whether that's the neighbors or previous careers or people that you pay money to in some way, shape, or form, which, by the way, is one of the areas that so many people completely forget, right? If you pay somebody on a regular basis, whether it is the grocery store, whether it is the dry cleaners, I don't know, the fitness club, the organic farm, it doesn't matter, right? The pet store. If you pay them money on a regular basis, they need to know that you're going to put them in your sphere of influence and that you're going to contact them on a regular basis. And you hopefully can build a business relationship with them, right? See, again, you can do it on a reciprocity base. Hey, do you accept referrals? Okay, great. By the way, there's not a business that will say no. No, we don't accept referrals. I've yet to hear one business that says no. We couldn't possibly accept referrals. And the same with you, right? So you offer them to, hey, can I send referrals to you? Guess what? They'll oftentimes ask you, well, what business are you in? Oh, okay. And then your community context, whether that is on a cultural base, a historical base, service groups, volunteering in any other capacity. There's so many opportunities there, of course, right? Just to name a few, right? Your kids, neighbors, service providers, social followers. There's tons of them. When you actually sit down in front of a piece of paper, you may be involved with way more opportunities than you even think of. Now, I'll go one step further. In a previous section and in other sections, we've talked about superpower. And sphere of influence and superpowers are actually very closely related. And what I mean by superpowers is what would you spend time, effort, energy, even money on if money didn't matter and you were not in real estate? What hobby, what passion, are you connected with something in nature, environmental, religious, historical, community, arts, crafts? Doesn't really matter. What is important to you, right? Now, is that shared with others? I don't know, if you have a dog and you go on hikes, well, why not record the hikes and tell the story of the new hike that you found out, or the new trail that you discovered, and an off-leash park that you found, or what have you, right? Now you have a connection with a new sphere of influence group. And it's part of your hobby, your interest anyway, so it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't act like work. It is just you're sharing something about you that makes you human, by the way, which is never a bad thing. And it connects you with people that, in some way, shape, or form, at some point in time, may very well become direct connections with you. A very, very significant way of using your superpower, something that you're passionate about, and building a stronger presence in your sphere of influence, or core group. Okay, very, very powerful. Okay. So your first target is really 150 to 300 people. And I'm going to throw some numbers at you here to rationalize that a little bit. Okay. So think about this. The law of averages in real estate say that people move once every 7 to 10 years. Okay. So let's pick that number of 150 people. So every 7 to 10 years, meaning that somewhere between 10 to 15 transactions will take place out of that group of 150 people each and every year. Rough and dirty. Okay? Now, you're not going to get them all. You're going to have opportunities to about half of those. So 150 people will get you likely in front of 7, 8 very serious and genuine business opportunities. So that's part of the averages and numbers in the business of real estate. So when we say your target ought to be 150 as soon as possible, as quick as possible, it really is more to do that we know from the law of averages that you're going to get some referrals out of that 150 and you're going to get some real business out of that 150. That's just the way things are. Now, that doesn't mean that it always happens that way, but it gives you a much better shot at it. Now, if you have 150 people in your sphere of influence and you add, say, 5 to 10 people a week by way of active lead generation, so these are new people that are added to your sphere of influence, then over a period of 50 weeks, then you have another 250, 275 people added to your group. So very important amount of numbers that you can play with to make sure that you're always adding new people to your sphere of influence. Because, they will also drop off, right? The people will move, people stop responding, not interested, yada, yada. Okay? Now, yes, most rookies, even if they say, I know nobody, when they actually put some pen to paper and put some thought into it, they know a lot more people than they think they do. Right? Just open your phone at the end of the session. Open your phone. Look at your phone. How many people are in your phone? Right? Do you have a system to get in touch and stay in touch with them? Now, in the workbook, there's a number of ways of organizing, okay, your sphere of influence. Okay, so for contact lists, for tagging instructions, and how you set your relationship tiers, and to some degree that also talks about the probability, the possibility for direct business and or referral business. A lot of people think that you need to lead generate or focus on direct business. With your sphere of influence, it's actually probably better to focus on referral business. Because your sphere of influence, you need to really treat with the highest regards and the highest respect, and with silk gloves, so you don't want to pressure him. But asking for referrals is not something that is most of the time viewed as offensive or intrusive at all. So if you ask for any kind of business interaction about people, then asking for referrals is typically a very good way. So segmentations is one of these ways how you can kind of organize and sort people into categories. So from close relations to casual relations to awareness contacts. People are aware of you, but you don't really know them. So that alone can change how you interact with people and how frequently you do these things. Let me give you a bit of a kind of an example of how some agents have used this. I know of a good number of realtors that have reward programs for referrals, right? So they don't necessarily reward the results from the referrals, but they reward the fact that people provide referrals. Why? Because it's not up to the person referring you to somebody to find out whether or not that's going to generate results. That's your job, and that's the interaction with the person referred. But the habit, the pattern of sending referrals is something that you want to reward, recognize. You want to be very appreciative about, because when you reward something, people have a tendency to repeat that. So if you had 4 or 5 people in your sphere of influence that send you a couple of referrals a month, how many more people do you need in your sphere of influence? You understand what I'm getting at, right? You see how significant that value is between being able to categorize between a close relationship or an awareness contact, right? Very significant. So you have your inner circle. These are what we call the A's, or the inner circle. These are the advocates, and those are people that will literally stop in the middle of the road when they see a for sale by owner, and will walk over to the for sale by owner and knock on the door and say, you need to be talking to my friend, the best realtor in town, and here's his business card, and they will advocate for you, right? And you will get a good number of referrals from them. There's a huge amount of trust and highest referral potential, right? And then you have your warm circle, which is they're friendly, familiar, they're responsive. They're great for getting in touch and staying in touch, and they will definitely name you if a referral opportunity came about. They may not go out of their way, but they will definitely help. They're certainly not harming you. Okay. And then, yes, you have a group of people that are in your outer circle that you know them. They kind of know you, but they may not be really involved with whatever goes on. That they'll pay attention periodically. They may be part of your sphere of influence on your social medias, but they're not really inner core. They're kind of there, and yes, they'll hit a like, and they sometimes share some stuff from you. They are the people that a bit more awareness would help, right? So a slightly increased amount of interaction, and there's going to be some of those that will actually ask to be removed. Okay. The first 2 groups will never ask to be removed unless you really, really bugger up the relationship. But out of the outer circle, periodically there will be people say, "Well, my brother, my cousin, my neighbor is my realtor, and I'll never change. So can you please remove me?" That will happen. So how do you activate? Well, it's just getting in touch. Hey, I just wanted to share some exciting news. I've now officially launched my real estate business, right? And be human. Don't talk about sales. But be real, right? And as people say, people don't care until they care, and if they care about you, then your news then becomes part of them feeling, engaged with you, connected with you. And so it's important when it becomes important to them, as not at the same level, but at a similar level as yourself, that they're happy for you, they're excited for you, and they're looking forward in continuing the relationship. Now, in the workbook, there's some scripts. Okay, if you are looking for scripts, but we're not really looking for something fancy dancy. You're not gonna, do something really scary, but you do want to get permission to stay in touch, right? So things like wanted to reach out personally, and I would love to stay connected with you in some way, shape, or form. And would you be terribly offended if we periodically updated you with whatever is going on in the real estate market? And again, if these people are part of your sphere of influence already, very likely they will say, "Yeah, sure." And yeah, if you want to ask for some business, there's no harm. If you don't want to ask for some business and do that in a follow up, there's no harm in that either. Okay. But hear what I already said, right? There's going to be a follow up. Right. So if you pop by with some of these plays and you had your chit chat, you had your family, occupation, recreation, and dreams, FORD, right? Remember that? And you said at some point in time in that conversation, well, thanks so very much for connecting with me and talking to me. Would you be terribly offended if I periodically stay in touch with you? And if they say, yeah, sure, okay. Update your contact information with them, right? And then either put something in the mail or drop something off in the next day or so with a handwritten note saying, hey, thanks for connecting with me. Really appreciate it. And, if you know anyone planning on making a real estate move, I'd be very grateful for the introduction. Right? And carry on. Thanks so very much. Talk to you soon. Right? No pressure, just permission. So, in your first 30 days, right, obviously, you're going to deal with a fairly concentrated group of people that you already know, like, and trust. The people are in your phone book, the people that you have personal interaction with. So you text them, you phone them, you do a personal intro. Now, this focuses more on the digital connection. And in essence, it's okay. I'm going to suggest to you that the personal, i.e., face to face, eyeball to eyeball, right, in person is way more valuable, way more. The rest, the text and the emails, the phone calls, as a follow up, it's okay, right? But in that first 30 to 60 days, you want to do about 3 or 4 interactions with your sphere of influence. This is quite important to re-solidify your connection with them, and then have a regular scheduled update with them. And it can still sound just as authentic as it was the first time, but different message, but in tune and in sync of your ongoing efforts to add value to their life. Okay? Very important part. So, they need to know that you're in business. Okay? I hear this on such a regular basis that I don't understand why my neighbor didn't list with me. They know I'm a realtor. They see my signs. Well, when was the last time you actually talked to your neighbor about the business of real estate? Oh, I don't know, a couple of years ago. Well, but they know. They see all my signs. No, they don't know. They don't pay attention to that. It's not part of their real priority. It's only a priority when it becomes a priority. And at that point in time, who did they think about? If it wasn't you, then somebody else will have taken that role. Right? It's a sphere of influence means not who you influence. No, it means how are others influenced in their decision making process when something becomes important. So, are other people changing their decision or their connection with people because they are in relationship with you? If they do, then your work is having the intended results. Still by adding value. Again, this is not because you pestered them. No, it's by adding value. Keep that in mind, right? So they need to know you're in real estate. So you need to be clear. What's your intro? You have a strong photo. Images are quite important. I'm not big on photos myself, to be honest with you, but it is definitely important. And you need to be confident. Confident, not necessarily that you know everything, but you will absolutely find out. right? So post number one, identity announcement. Hey, I'm in real estate. Hey, keep it personal, be genuine, be real, whatever that is. Okay. As a matter of fact, there's quite a few people in the other sections of our podcast where we talk about aspiring agents and almost agents. We talk about telling the story about getting into the business of real estate before you get into the business of real estate, right? Talking about that you're doing your assignments, talking about taking the courses, and talking about all the work and the effort and all the stuff that you're doing in preparation to become a real estate professional already sets the tone. You're not actually soliciting, you're just setting the tone and the relationships into the right direction. So then when you then officially announce, all of a sudden, this is not coming out of the blue. No, it's just a continuation of that story. Right? So you've already changed the perception that people have of you from whatever it was that they knew you from before you got into real estate. That already that is emotion. It's actually quite an important marketing piece to consider. Okay, so then your post number two, your announcement number two is value based, right? Do some market update, do a local tip, do some buyer or seller advice. Now, again, you do this online as well as offline. Okay. And by the way, market updates, market trends, or local tips force you to become a market expert. It just does. You have to do the homework. And yes, I know a lot of people can say, well, yeah, but I can use AI. Please don't. Just do the work. Why? Because you need to get into the habit of actually knowing the stuff. Right? Build your instant access information resource. Yes, you can use AI to kind of compile some of the stuff if you absolutely desperately have to, but make sure that you truly know what that is that you hand out and that you can articulate clearly what it all means. Because it's not about facts, it's about how it's interpreted. And you need to be able to interpret. That's why you're there. The facts, everybody can get the facts. It takes 30 seconds to get facts of the internet, right? But how is it to be interpreted so that it is relevant to the people that you're talking with? Right? You're kind of an advisor. You're the counselor. You're the not necessarily leading the conversation, but you can certainly guide it and direct it in the right way, in the right fashion. Hope that makes sense. It's very important, actually. Okay, so be warm, right? Just curious, what are your plans for your home over the next few years? If that conversation comes up, I'm actually cautious about in those initial stages about talking real estate shop in the sense of asking for direct business. Much more encouraging you to think about the referral business rather than the direct business. So this would most likely be already in response of an inquiry that somebody, the consumer, said, what's happening in the marketplace? Well, that's a great question. I'm just curious, what are your plans for your home over the next few years? Now it's appropriate, right? Because it was initiated by them rather than you kind of, how's the weather? Well, I don't know. Just curious. What are your plans for your home? Well, see, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't belong there. Okay. So non-threatening, but yet effective. Then, of course, you want to be dealing with any kind of response. Any kind of response. Doesn't matter whether it was about soccer or dogs or the bicycle lanes or doesn't matter. Always respond. Something with encouragement, some curiosity, some assistance, some guidance, maybe offer to do some research. Add value. Add value. Ask questions. Why are you asking? What makes this particular topic important to you? right? So let the consumer kind of guide you as to the reasons why the questions even come about. Because again, once we make assumptions, we may be assuming into the wrong direction and start answering stuff that are completely irrelevant to the consumer. Okay. But one of the key questions is, particularly if you've done some market updates and market studies, people say, well, tell me more about the marketplace. And then we start spouting off all of our wisdom and expertise, and because we're so smart. And we are. Don't get me wrong, we actually know a fair bit once you get into this. But there's context, right? So why is the consumer asking? What drives that question, and how can you help them to make sure that whatever information that they needed, they actually get? Well, so you simply return the question and say, well, why do you ask? What is making you curious about the marketplace? Is there particular issues that you're concerned about that you need to know more about? Is there some context that you can provide so that it can make sure that I, give you the information as you need it and what you need, rather than me guessing at that? Okay, quite important. Okay, follow up. Oh, this is people just did this. I would guarantee you that a lot of agents would do a lot more business. Okay, 3C3 method. First 3 days, you quick reply. Whatever it is, you reply. Right? Now, if it's social media, an instantaneous model, then it's not 3 days. It's actually, I'm going to say 30 minutes. Beyond 30 minutes is almost like, unless it was, somebody typed something in the middle of the night. Okay, you're forgiven. But then it better be done first thing in the morning. Right? So, again, you think about where the information came from. If it was, an email, I would say, again, 3 hours. Okay, but it's still 333. Then a follow up and a follow up and a follow up and a follow up. Okay, program of threes works quite well. Okay, there you go. Exercise one: build your SEO. That's your homework. That's your mission. That should be easy. Okay, this should not be hard. If it is hard, which for some people, if you're brand spanking new in a community or an area, well, then that becomes your primary focus. I hate to tell you, you have to find a way to get in touch with more people. It is critical. Well, it's your lifeline. There's no alternative, right? Now, whether you do this by way of hardcore lead generation and then adding it to your sphere of influence, I'm fine with it, right? As long as you're, recognizing that not everybody that you contact is going to be a lead, but it doesn't mean that they can't be part of your sphere of influence, right? So if you do door knocking or cold calling or open houses or what have you, whomever is there, if you took the assumption that they're first and foremost a sphere of influence person, and secondly, they might develop into an active buyer or seller for now. Okay. Then you're going to treat the relationship a little bit more long-term, non-transactional, rather than it's got to happen now. And you'll build a sphere of influence much, much faster that way. Much, much faster. Okay. So your second exercise, and again, if today is your due day that you watch this, then do this today. Complete at least 10 messages. So you got, people in your list, send 10 messages. Hey, just thinking about you. Hope you're doing all right. Just wanted to let you know I'm now officially licensed in real estate. If there's ever any questions about what is going on in the market, please let me know. It could be a text message or a phone call or whenever a cup of coffee with people or what have you. Record your first SEO intro video. So for your social media and what have you, and for YouTube and profiles and whatever else, your website, do an intro. From very short, 30 seconds, upwards to about 3 minutes. They're all good. You can use them in different contexts and purposes. I would use the portrait style now because that seems to be the favorite model nowadays. But some people are very much focused on the slide style, and I'm using the slide style because in this way, in this format, because I can do both, right? I can take the portrait part and run that separately and ignore the slide. So that's why we're doing it this way on this model. But if you're just doing videos, I would now prefer that you or recommend that you would use the portrait style. Okay. In the workbook, there are some activation worksheets, the contact builder, segmentation, do the scripts, learn everything there is to learn, read whatever there is to read. There are lots and lots of scripts that you can generate from anywhere, whether it's AI or books or whatever. So I'm not even going to dive into it. But remember FORD. It's an important way, and it eases you into conversations that can go anywhere. Okay. Now, in the toolkit, okay, there are messages, there are conversation scripts, and there are some social media post templates, and there are some 30-day touch point plans. So there's a whole action plan in there as far as the toolkit that will tell you day 1, day 2, day 3. So go through the workbook, and otherwise look in the toolkit and you'll find it. Okay. Now, the simplicity of a sphere of influence program could give you the impression that this was, you do it once and it take care of itself. The simplicity makes people ignore it more often than not. And that's a shame. Okay. I'm going to strongly urge you to make working on your sphere of influence a priority each and every day you work. And even the days that you don't work, you're going to run into people that want to be part of your sphere of influence. So even then, you want to have a model in place that allows you to add people to your systems as quickly and as easily as possible, right? Think about that there's likely 5 to 8 contacts that you want to have with a newer person in your sphere of influence before they become a familiar, comfortable with the relationship with you. And it rarely is about the business of real estate at that point in time. It's really about building a relationship. So what 6 to 8 interactions can you have that are non-threatening, that add value to the relationship, that the consumer is going to appreciate and value, and doesn't require you to be on guard 24/7. Okay. Automation is a very significant part of that, and is one of the key reasons why you have to have a solid, well set up system for building your sphere of influence. We call it a top of mind awareness program, and we'll talk about that in a future episode. But in short, it means you having a semi-automated reminder system that allows you to get in touch and stay in touch with people to build that top of mind awareness relationship, or top of preference relationship, which is even more desired, of course. Okay. So people want to support you. They do. They actually do want to support you. They just need to know you're in the game. And if they kind of forget that you were or that you are, then they'll go somewhere else. So are you a magnet or are you pushing people away? All right. Your mission is complete. So get to action. This won't self-destruct, so don't worry about that part. But if you have any questions, get in touch, stay in touch with us. Talk to you soon. Have a fantastic week.
File saved. The Agent Files. For more missions, agents' tools, and tactical strategies, subscribe and follow the Agent Files, powered by Agent Builder Coaching. Until next time, stay sharp. Your next mission awaits.